This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country, and we join their calls for justice.
Talk about the Greens, that bunch of idiots.
If you want the dole for life, free marijuana, vote Greens.
These people, these Greens, they are snake oil salesmen.
They're a bunch of breathbags and a bunch of idiots, and I've got no time for them whatsoever.
Frankly, I've always found the Greens to be a real serious danger to Australia.
Serious danger to Australia.
Good afternoon, beautiful Danger Doctor of Sydney. Would you please put your hands together? Welcome to the stage, your hosts, Emerald Moon and Tom Ballard.
Welcome everybody, this is Serious Danger, a podcast about green politics in Australia. I'm Emerald Moon, that's Tom Ballard. Let me put my shit down.
Hello, Sydney, you crazy motherfuckers.
We made it. Very important announcement, this is not an official Greens Party podcast. Everyone stop asking.
I'm literally wearing a Greens t-shirt. But we're here, baby.
We made it. This podcast is made possible with the help of the Green Institute and produced by Michael the Griffin, who is, where did he go? He's somewhere.
He's up the back.
Yeah,
Griff, everybody. And we are on Gadigal country, coming to you from the Vanguard at a sold-out show in Sydney in the great state of New South Wales. Oh, fuck. Okay.
That is interesting. They're like, they don't want to cheer because they know I'm here.
Obviously, Queensland is the best state.
Absolutely.
Victoria's number 2. This one's
Absolutely.
also fun.
It is good to be in Sydney, though, where you can find a 2-bedroom apartment for a couple of $100.
Couple $100. That is such a goddamn bargain.
It's really good stuff.
Thank you, Rose. Love you. Thanks so much for coming out. This is our first ever show in Sydney. We did our first show in New South Wales show in Newcastle yesterday. It is delightful to be here in Sydney. Thank you for buying tickets. All the money raised from today goes towards the Alan Jones Legal Defence Fund. And we will get justice for him. No, we're going to use that money to pay for a ticket for Benjamin Netanyahu to come to Australia.
Okay, he's the comedian, everyone. He's got his bits to do.
Here, Adam Bant will impose a citizen's arrest. And he will be tried for war crimes. That sound good, Sydney?
Yes. No, in reality, we are going to be joined later by satirist Mark Humphries and shortly a very special local Greens celebrity, Jenny Leong.
Yeah! It's going to be fun, baby.
It's going to be very fun. Is there anyone, so we were in Newcastle yesterday, I see some Rising Tide shirts. How many people went to the show yesterday and are also here? I knew there was at least one person.
There's one over there too.
Okay, there's 2, 3. All right, that's...
You fucking losers. I was considering not coming to this, to be honest. No,
yeah.
It is so nice of you to come back. That's very kind.
That's very lovely.
It was your first ever time to Newcastle, right?
It was, yeah. I learned about Maury the Mole. I learned about what to call Novocastrians.
Very good.
Have I got it now? I've got it now. That's good. And then thankfully we were able to make it here because Chris Minns talked some sense into the bloody union thugs in the RTBU. We caught the lovely train.
Yes,
down
did you enjoy
here.
that experience?
I did. Actually, Mike and I spent quite a bit of time discussing public transport like the fucking lefty nerds that we are. So.
Do you think, is your impression this is better than the Queensland situation? Or
I
not?
would never say that
Of
anything
course,
from New South
of
Wales is
course.
better,
Best.
but it was probably better, yeah.
But like Rising Tide was... Rising Tide was amazing. This is going to go out in a few days, of course. So to people listening to this on the Patreon feed, this is going to be old news. But, we saw a whole, hundreds of kayaks that are out there. As we are taking to the stage this afternoon, news is breaking that the protesters at the Newcastle port, the largest coal port in the world, have declared victory. They've turned a goddamn coal ship around. How about that, everybody? Which is great, right? We were talking about, this is awesome. It's a shame that unlike last year, we haven't actually stopped, it seems, the trade of coal in that port. But
it's meant to be a coal blockade. And we were and it was, to be honest, I think anyone who was there was a little bit dispiriting because sometimes you would go out and you would literally watch a coal ship kind of go out past the kayakers.
Just
and you're
boo them from the shore, going, no!
Yes, but no, they stopped a fucking coal ship. And you can see because Rising Tide posted the graphic, the like marine path or whatever, they track the map of this ship going and turning right back around.
Hell yeah, baby!
Yeah.
Really good stuff. And solidarity and love to all those people. And I guess we should all try and give money to people if they're arrested and charged and they need money for a legal defence fund because they're doing the Lord's work there. But before we bring up our guest, we thought we'd run through some big stories of the week. The biggest story in New South Wales, of course, is this one. Full-strength beers returning to Western Sydney stadiums after being banned for more than a decade. Revellers at stadiums in Western Sydney will soon have the same access to full-strength beer as those in the city's east. That's fucking freedom, people. In this state, you can't protest against the burning planet or a genocide, but you can have some full fucking proper piss when you go to the footy, Emerald.
Yes. Thank God. I mean, at least, if you're too depressed about the climate, you can just get shit-faced at the footy. And that's it.
You are famously straight edge. You're drinking heaps normal today.
Heaps normal.
But you appreciate that this is fantastic working class politics for the Minns government?
Look, principles aren't principles unless you stand by them in every situation. So sure, yes, I stand for the freedom of the beer drinkers.
You love Labor. Currently, stadiums in the West are limited to half-strength beer, while those in the city can access full-strength beer, a discrepancy labelled unfair.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, by definition. Labor member for Riverstone, Warren Kirby, said that half-strength beer was first mandated across all stadiums in 2011 in a bid to bring poor crowd behaviour under control. In 2022, after the upgrade of Sydney Football Stadium, full-strength beer became available at the venue as well as the SCG, but the same change was not afforded to fans in the West. That is a fucking disgrace.
Yeah, and I understand, right, that the West is meant to be like the poorer suburbs too. So surely it felt like a little bit of classism going on. Oh,
totally,
in there.
yes.
Yeah.
It's also, one of the most multicultural parts of the entire goddamn country. It's about 1 million people live in western suburbs of Sydney. Yeah. And of course, they're, according to the fat cats who run this state, can't be trusted with their beer. Kirby said this brouhaha.
Ha 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 ha. Laugh.
He's not a professional like me, guys. Give him a break. It's not about the strength of beer, it's about fairness. People living in Western Sydney should be treated with the same respect as those in the eastern suburbs. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about this quote I read in the story. Venues New South Wales head Kerry Mather said that fans have been asking for full-strength beer at the Western City stadiums for a number of years. Just like the world-class food offering at our stadiums, it's all about choice and variety for supporters. Now... Can people correct me? Is there any world-class food happening at any stadium in the fucking world?
I just love that. I mean, what outlet printed that? They were like, yes, very important. We include that quote, yes. World-class food offering in our stadiums.
I think a fact check would be needed. Chris Minns, your hero, he tweeted this. No matter your postcode, you should be able to enjoy a beer at the footy. So we're ending the ban on full-strength beers in Western City stadiums. Starting next year, we're ending the discrimination and allowing fans the choice between full, mid or zero alcohol beer while at the footy, just like they've been asking for. Because no matter their postcode, it's time we started treating adults like adults.
Okay.
Drink responsibly.
Oh my God.
I guess we're treating adults like adults, but only with this one drug.
With this one drug,
yes.
That's right. And you hear no matter their postcode and you're like, oh, everyone should access dental? Everyone should have a home and education? No. Beer. Yeah.
And then you find out it's still only a six-month trial as well. Of course. Yes.
Thanks, Labor.
Labor loves a trial.
They love a trial. There's got to be a commission after the trial, of course, to consider the results of the trial.
And then a review of the commission.
A review of the commission of the
trial.
Yes, absolutely. That's right.
What have you been looking at?
Well, not everything requires a trial and a review and a commission, of course, when Labor actually wants to do it. Right. Case in point, the political donations reform. So this was introduced last week. It was introduced on Monday. Yep. People who are listening to this on Patreon, I don't know when the time is, sorry. People who are in the room, it was introduced on Monday. And they are planning to pass this electoral reform this coming week. Parliament sitting again, final sitting week of the year. They want to get it done. Sounds like there's been a deal done between Labor and the Liberals, so it's all sorted and it's probably just going to pass anyway because that's democracy, I guess.
Great!
Yay!
The system works.
But I wanted to talk through, the good, the bad, and the anti-teal of it all. Do you understand? Do you know what the bill contains broadly?
No.
No. Good. I'll tell you. That's how the podcast works, everybody.
I let women speak, so yeah.
That's really, really good.
I'm making space.
Thank you so much for holding space.
Defying gravity.
Some people will get that.
Yeah.
So it's got spending and donation caps. It's got some stuff around disclosure and these new payments that go to MPs and political parties or increased electoral reimbursements. Does New South Wales already have some form of spending and donation caps? Anyone know? Yeah, okay, right. Well, they would introduce a federal version of those. A lot of things that the Greens and independents crossbench have been talking about for some time are included in the bill, like the real-time disclosure. But a lot of it seem to be designed to just entrench the existing two-party system and make it harder for new entrants. And particularly, yes, the independents are quite upset.
Right.
Yes, the spending caps, run through them very quickly, $90 million for a federal political campaign. That seems quite high. That's across a full party, I believe. And then per seat, you've got $800,000 for an individual electorate or a candidate. in that electorate. And then there's these separate caps for each state and territory based on their size for the party or group. And third parties like unions or pressure groups, whatever, get $11 million. So to put it into context, a reminder that a lot of this is in response to Clive Palmer. His party spending $120 million in 2022. So he would have been able to spend, I guess, $30 million less and, I don't know, waste a little less of his own money. And the Teals received $10.2 million in donations, including $1.5 million from Atlassian founder, is that how you pronounce that?
Yep.
Atlassian, okay. Scott Farquhar, Lord Farquhar? I don't know the billionaires. Via, of course.
They should get us on Insiders.
Yes, we'd be good, right?
to bring this level
I need
of analysis.
the pronunciation.
Is that like the guy from Shrek? All right, thanks for your time, Ms.
That's
Moon.
called meeting people where they're at, Tom.
That's true, yes.
That's right.
More people know about Lord Farquhar than this motherfucker.
Yes, so the fact, of course, the Teals are probably partly upset because they got things like $1.5 million in donations, and it has these donations caps, which would be $20,000 per candidate for independents or per state division to parties.
What?
Now, because that seems like kind of, if that's per state division to parties or per candidate, that still seems like pretty high, right?
How much
for an
money?
individual to donate $20,000. But I guess then one individual couldn't donate $1.5 million. Although I guess the Greens have probably got a few individual donors.
Famously, yes,
more.
there have been a few very wealthy people who have chipped in about $1 million, certain donations up in that sort of realm to the party.
Yeah.
And when they did that, that was good.
When they did, that's exactly right. That's
and that
exactly
should be allowed.
Right. That should be very much legal. The one thing that I thought was interesting, because then there's an overall limit per donor. So they can make a donation of up to $20,000 to a campaign, go, I want to support them. But overall, they can make $600,000 in donations. And to reach that cap, I haven't quite done the maths, but I feel like you'd have to be donating to like so many different parties and candidates across multiple electorates. And right. I mean, I guess the sad fact is we do often see that, a lot of these big companies don't donate to Labor and the LNP. So perhaps it just covers those situations where you just want to have influence with whoever ends up winning. So you're placing a bet each way.
Great. Okay, yeah, so you take the donation cap, you split it in half, give it to both sides of politics, and you're sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
And does this cover things like these dinners that we hear about, where people go to, they just pay shitloads of money to attend a dinner where you get to sit next to Chris Bowen, a fucking dream come true, and are obviously able to form connections and influence and network with the parties that
Tom,
way.
It's not to gain influence. They just like sitting next to them. It's just a social event.
It's just an amazing chicken dish.
It's just a lovely, that's right. They share a meal. Yeah, no, actually those cash for access forums are included, but union affiliation fees aren't, for example. So this is where, the LNP or the Liberals will often accuse Labor of rigging things in their favour because they will exclude union fees, which are only going to the Labor Party. It also, the bill though, we'll go back to those elements a little bit and talk about those, but it does include some good things. It lowers the disclosure threshold for political donations to $1,000 and includes real-time, monthly donation disclosure, and it kind of increases as you get closer to the election, and then in the week before the election it'll be daily.
All right. Now that's really good, right? Because people talk about how cooked our laws are in that we don't get to find out who's donating to the parties until like 6 months after the election.
So helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, really helpful.
Right.
But I think, and they split out truth in political advertising. That's in a separate bill. That's not coming in this bill. But the point is, like, they've introduced this bill now. From what I understand, there have been bills, or at least proposals from the crossbench, including the Greens, for these things like real-time disclosure, lowering the disclosure threshold for years.
Right.
But they've decided that they need to introduce this right now and get it through right now. No committee inquiry. The Greens and the Independents tried to move for an inquiry. It's apparently a 200-page bill.
Right.
With no scrutiny. It'll pass in about a week. Seems all normal and not sus at all.
But they want to try and pass it this year, but it's not going to kick into 2026 until after the next election, right?
Yeah. So that's right. It won't even be in place for this election.
Great. So
really.
it's going to be a fucking donation bonanza.
But yes, presumably everyone will get their shit, and they will have time to set up and find all of the loopholes and set up all their bodies that they will use that will be exempt from the donations laws, etc.
Right.
But there is one element of the I guess, backlash to this that I wanted to discuss because I don't know how we deal with this, right? There's this frame around one part of the bill being the higher vote reimbursement. So when a party gets over 4% of the vote, their votes will be reimbursed. Not from, it's currently $2.91 per vote. It'll go up to $5 under this bill.
Woo-hoo!
Hey, that's right, payday. The frame from the independents and from, I think, a lot of media as well is that this is like, it's a poor use of taxpayer money. Like you shouldn't be spending money, giving money to political parties in a cost of living crisis when we need homes and whatnot. But I mean, that sounds right on the face of it, right? But fundamentally, I would say the Greens' position is that we should be moving towards more public funding. So like a high level of public funding and less reliance on private donations.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen these discussions again play out on Insiders. There was a famous clip of James Campbell, that guy who looks like the villain from Danger Mouse or whatever. So on the news, they were talking about political donations stuff, and he's like, "All right, yes, there are companies involved, but what would you prefer? Like taxpayers pay for this stuff?" And it's like, well, I'm sorry, that is the alternative.
Yeah.
If it's not public money being funded towards our political parties of all stripes, including independents and minor parties, to engage in the political process, which we know does cost money, if it's not them, then who the fuck do you think it's going to be? It's going to be the forces of capital and rich people stepping in to use their money, and with that money will come influence. If we want to get rid of that, there will be a cost, and that's the public funding of our democracy.
That's right, yeah. But it is, I think it's a difficult thing to argue.
It's a tough sell.
Yeah,
it's a
very tough sell
yes.
to any normal person with a normal brain right now.
Right.
But
that's not me, thank you.
No, that's right, not you. I would never say that about you. The major issue that the independents in particular, but I would say the crossbench as well, are taking with it though is that it entrenches the two-party system and makes it easier for incumbents. So in addition to, yes, giving them a higher vote reimbursement amount, they also have things like this new $30,000 per year in admin funding for MPs and then $15,000 for senators. I still don't understand what the justification is for it only being for incumbents. That's only per senator and per MP to deal with the extra, compliance costs. And I think it's true that, yes, if you change the laws and if you increase like the donations, the disclosure requirements, for example, that does require a level of that creates an administrative burden. Right. But that's on everyone involved in running in elections, not on MPs and senators.
Including candidates that aren't incumbents that aren't actually elected, who are running for it.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that does seem like a neat little deal they've sorted out there.
It really does. It does, doesn't it? The other interesting thing is the Nationals, I think, they were kind of anonymous people from the Nationals talking to media about their concerns about how this system would centralise campaigning, and they have concerns that all this money would be going to the central party body and it would be less kind of grassroots. This is interesting in the New South Wales context as well, right? Because we were talking about how the rules in the New South Wales Greens that the local branches, the local groups hold funding. And so if all the money was going to the central party body, I think that it would be very difficult for them to then direct funds towards target campaigns, right?
Right, yeah. In Victoria, we have a system where, your branch might raise money, some of that money will go to state office, and then they can redirect some of those funds at the target seats where we think we have a genuine chance of winning. In New South Wales, because you're all fucking communists, the local branches dictate it all, and so there are no directed target seats from the statewide body. I'm not coming down on either side of that necessarily, but it's a big difference between the different branches. And under this system, I suppose, the relationship between the Australian Greens and New South Wales Greens would get interesting.
Yes, it's quite good as I understand it at the moment. Anyway.
And just to reiterate the point about entrenching the two-party system.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we were reading an article, there's an article in the Saturday paper yesterday from featuring a quote from Don Farrell, who's the Ministry for State, who's sort of taking care of all this, in which he literally says, a quote attributed to him, I think Simon Holmes a Court is saying, hey, Don, I think this new system, these laws, it's just going to entrench the two-party system. And apparently Don Farrell said, well, that's the fucking point.
Yeah. And I think, and this is where it's the devil is in the detail, right? Because in Queensland, similarly, we introduced donations and spending caps. But there are so many fucking loopholes that are clearly designed just for, like, the major parties have had their meetings behind closed doors and sorted out ways that they'll be able to get around this.
Right.
That the minor parties either have to scramble to figure out how to also set up the same kind of fucking dodgy exploitation of those loopholes, or they're just precluded from using them altogether. And I think there's things in this bill like that there are these designated funding bodies that the major parties already have that would be exempt from the donations laws, or the donations cap, sorry.
Right.
But the minor parties and obviously the independents don't have those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Also in Victoria, there was a hoo-ha about, parties that have money because of the years and years of fundraising, getting donations. Of course, that sets up funds, which then generates its own money. So what do you do with all that cash, which is the result of the profits from money that you've already received, which was money that you've received before these new laws were introduced, which gets messy too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What are the Greens going to do about it?
Well, so, I mean, Larissa Waters has been pretty vocal on this as Democracy spokes. Her line in a speech that she gave last week was, quote, "We want big money out of politics, but not just new big money." And that seems to be the differentiating factor, because a lot of this, like I said, this is shit that the Greens and the crossbench have been talking about for some time. They obviously think that, yes, the fact that someone like Clive Palmer and these wealthy billionaires can exert so much influence over an election purely because of their wealth is wrong, and we need to do something about that.
Right.
But the difference as well is that the Greens have had this proposal to ban donations, and I think that the crossbench, so the Indies also got on board with this, introduced a bill around banning dirty donations, which I put in quotations because I feel a certain way about this. In Queensland, it's ban all corporate donations.
Yep.
But this proposal from the Australian Greens is from like gambling, alcohol, tobacco, fossil fuel companies, ban just those donations.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
What are the remaining clean ones?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, every other company, like in my view, I think, if you're saying that a donation is a way for you to express your, exercise your democratic rights, and this is going to, I don't know. No, this is the audience for it, isn't it? This is where you get into the shit around the High Court decisions about that, Australia has an implied right of free political expression in the Constitution, and there was this decision that a political donation can in some way constitute an exercise of that implied right.
Yes.
And so there have been arguments that to ban corporate donations, for example, would be inconsistent with that decision and therefore unconstitutional.
Right.
Because, yes.
And Labor is saying that the caps in this are so high that would therefore allow them to get around that particular decision that would still be considered legal.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But I think that they would argue that, if the Greens and the crossbench tried to ban donations from particular companies, then that would be unconstitutional. But I think that is ultimately bullshit, and there would be a lot of, I think, constitutional lawyers who argue actually that is bullshit because companies aren't fucking people, and they shouldn't have the same right to exercise. Like, they don't have political views. They're just the same people then doubling up on their influence due to their capital, to the position that they hold.
Well, they
in
do
the
have
company.
political views. Their views are money, nom, 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 nom.
Yum, more money, please. But the other interesting, the bill that the crossbench introduced also includes a donations cap, but their cap was at $1.5 million.
Hello!
Which the Teals would be totally fine with. The Greens policy, on the other hand, is to cap all other donations, aside from those quote-unquote dirty companies, dirty industries, to $1,000 per year. So big difference.
So
there.
anyone of any kind, so you could even donate $1,000 from the dirty industry, of course. Everyone else, and then everyone else is just $1,000.
Yes.
If you're a billionaire or you're an ordinary working person, I mean, not that lots of people don't have a grand to donate to the Greens. Although think about it. Everyone's sort of that same limit is going to be across the board.
And again, then you kind of, if you take this to its logical conclusion, a lot of people would say, well, ban political donations altogether because some people are going to have $1,000 and some people aren't, no matter what the limit is.
Sure.
It should ultimately just be publicly funded.
Yeah.
But I think we're a long way from that.
Yeah. And I mean, in New South Wales, again, there are specific, having done some events for New South Wales Greens, it's like me hosting an event, I need to make a disclosure of my payment in kind, and I have to put a dollar value on my fucking talking, for God's sakes, which is my entire job. And then over the entire year, I can only donate $1,000 to the New South Wales Greens within the whole year period. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but you can donate to the Australian Greens at the moment.
I can.
Yes, and you do?
Sometimes.
I mean, I think it will be interesting. Like we assume that this bill will pass. It seems like the major parties are both on board. I understand.
Hang on, Labor's teaming up with the coalition?
Yeah.
They're teaming up to do that?
Can you believe this?
Someone would do that?
Yeah.
They're teaming up?
That's right, Tom.
To form a yes-alition?
A yes.
I don't know.
Something like that. Something like that.
How much was that? Worth 50 cents? Yeah.
50 cents, that's right. My question is, do you think that given the timing of this and other things, what's your bet on whether there's going to be a March election?
Those are what the signs are looking like, right? Like we heard a little bit of intel that there was a meeting in Parliament and people were sort of saying, oh, welcome to the final meeting here for the term, for the year. That would make sense. Normally around January 26th, you announce a new election, then you have a March election, they sort of go for that. But again, these laws won't affect that because it's not going to kick into 2026.
No, but we're political nerds. We love speculating about when the federal election is going to be. I'm always a late election truther, but we'll see. Everyone thinks it's going to be March now.
And everyone thinks it's going to be a Greens majority government! No, not even this crowd. Thanks for trying, guys. All right, let's bring our first guest up here. We are delighted she's joining us today. She's been the New South Wales Greens member for Newtown since 2015. Please give it up for Jenny Leong!
High five.
I don't know, very cool.
Yes, that's yours.
Thanks, Jenny. Cheers. Thanks for being here, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for being in Newtown.
No worries. What's the New South Wales Greens policy on full-strength beer?
Look, it's just, I feel like the full-strength beer announcement.
Yep.
And can I just say Warren Kirby is quite a nice guy.
Okay,
But anyway.
He's all right.
The full-strength beer announcement is just basically the level of vision we're seeing from the Minns Labor government at the moment. Like, it is literally, like, they are so excited about that there's all these social media tiles, like the full comms machine kicks into gear.
Yes.
And it's like, wasn't that because people were getting aggro and bashing each other at the footy and getting really drunk and then harassing people?
Oh, God.
Maybe the equality and fair approach should be that we should look at how much booze is consumed in various locations, and the fairness is about probably the cost of housing, the cost of commuting.
Boring.
If you lived in Western Sydney. Boring. We want beer.
Fucking fun, police. Here we go.
Beer. Oh my gosh, it's totally true. Soon I'll make everyone drink zero booze beer.
You probably want us to drink tofu.
Chickpeas.
With cheers.
You've been sitting in Parliament, New South Wales Parliament this week, speaking of the vision of the Minns government. What are the big fights? What have you been talking about? I believe they're introducing more restrictions on our right to protest. Wonderful stuff.
Oh, yeah, look. So basically there's two approaches to what's happening with the Minns Labor government now that they've delivered all the election promises that they can get delivered. Let's just be really clear.
Right,
they haven't delivered them all,
okay.
But the ones that they can get sorted, they've done. So we have sort of two schools of thought. Either you get tough on law and order bills coming through where they all love the police, they want to crack down on protesters, they want to strengthen the ability for police to go out and tell people that if they're hanging ceasefire now banners that they're somehow inciting violence and are anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So that's all going on. And then simultaneously you have miscellaneous bills where we're just doing some changes to some significant wording in legislation. Like we found that there was the word facsimile still in a bill.
Modernising legislation.
They're really stepping up with the minute technocratic detail. In fact, some ministers will even say when you're being briefed on these bills, now this is something that sat on the on the government's Liberal government's bench desks for years before, and they just haven't brought it, and so we're sorting this out now. And like literally, it will be about paintball shooting regulation.
Oh my God. There's not a lot else on.
There is a reason why it sat on the desk of that minister, because it would be embarrassing to say that was your priority each week in Parliament. But they haven't learned that
by
yet.
Labor. Modernising paintball regulations.
Full strength beer, paintball, they sound pretty fucking cool, man.
Well, maybe they're trying to get down with peeps.
Well, good luck to you. And thank you for fighting them, setting up for a reason. We wanted to talk to you because, of course, you're a massive Greens success story. At the 2023 state election, you had a 9% swing towards you here in the seat of Newtown with a primary vote of 54%, everybody.
Wow, thank you.
Don't mind if I do.
Thank you.
We want more of that, please.
All
And-
with election caps, can I say?
Oh, well, fantastic.
There you go.
Thank you very much. That's great work. All with those Tom Ballard free MC gigs. So we thought it'd be good to talk to you about this kind of narrative. We've been touching on it a little bit on the show in recent weeks. This narrative that is sort of forming in 2024, which is, it's all gone to shit for the Greens. This year is not working out for us. The vote's going backwards. They had their fun little moment in 2022, but it's all over. And we'll get through some of the details and kind of the cases that people cite to make that case, often in bad faith. But generally speaking, what do you think of that narrative? Are you seeing some of this coverage and these people talking about, it's not going and the Greens should calm down and stop being so radical?
Look, it's hard to say that. I mean, if I like to rely on good credible sources, and if you watch the Advance Australia video,
Yes.
Their strategy is that we've been winning 1 seat a year for the last 20 years.
Yep.
On average. Now, that hasn't gone up or down. It's pretty consistent. When you look at the result in Brisbane, sure, it wasn't what people were aiming for, but you look at Amy McMahon's vote, she still won on primary. She still got the highest primary vote out of those, Labor, Liberal and the Greens. Like, obviously, there were preferences. There were other issues that went on there. Locally, and shout out to our Council of City of Sydney, Sylvie Osmore, who is here.
Hey, mate.
Locally, we've just seen in our City of Sydney Council election, Sylvia was the only Green, and now we've got a second Green. In the last 2 council elections, we've tripled our council vote locally. The last federal election in Sydney, we saw that we got 2-party preferred with Labor for the first time against the Liberals. There might be a narrative that seeks to create a negative dynamic, but I don't think that is where we're headed.
Right.
I think the bigger challenge we have, and I think this is, to get serious for a second in terms of where we're at, the bigger challenge we have now is that we are seen by so many as a real threat.
Yeah.
And so the dynamics of how you do a grassroots campaign when you've actually got mega money being thrown at trying to destroy you is a very different thing.
We can't sneak up on them anymore.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
There's no secret. And, I think one of the best kind of examples of this, when I flew up to door knock with Michael Berkman in Queensland before he got elected, and I was chatting to some of the volunteers, and this is before he'd been elected, and they said, we're talking to people, and people have never been door knocked before.
Yeah.
They've never spoken to a political, candidate or a volunteer volunteering for a political party before. And so that kind of tactic where you're like, we're using and relying on these things to get to know, to show people we do politics differently, doesn't work with politics being done differently. If you're then the incumbent.
Yes.
You have to change the way you do it. What you do for that kind of politics is very different. And I think there is and I know people always joke about the very decentralised nature of the New South Wales Greens and our very, very flat structure. But the benefits to that also is a huge protection against those things because our campaigns are driven so locally and initiated so much that even if the statewide or the national narrative is heading in a certain direction, the folks on the ground doing the work, the candidates, the campaigners and the strategy is set at a level where people know what's going on in those local communities. And I do think it provides a bit of cover for that kind of challenge.
What do you think about the narrative, Emerald? We talked about it. I tried to say to you yesterday, it felt like maybe a lack of momentum, all the excitement and joy we were feeling in 2022. There have been some challenges, some rocky roads. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I think your assessment is correct, that it's like you need a tailored response. And I mean, a tailored response for an insurgent campaign versus an incumbent one, for example, a tailored response based on the location. But also there's this interesting, particularly in Queensland, the divide between the inner city and outside of that inner city is real. And the idea of anti-politics, the idea that, I think we came to it and we often come to politics for the last few years with an assumption that people are really pissed off and angry and just really want change. But it's interesting because in the areas that have been voting Greens for the last few years or even for a long time, they're doing a little bit better. And particularly with gentrification, a lot of people are being forced out of the inner city if they're not doing very well. And so in the inner city, people might just sort of be like, things are okay. They might not have that hunger for change. And there are certainly things that they are hungry for and that you can still, work with them. But you do need a tailored response because outside of that inner city, people are pissed off. So it is a different experience.
Yeah. And I think with that, the other way to look at it, you mentioned that I won the seat of Newtown in 2015. If I look at the kind of demographics that made up our campaign committee and the strategies and tactics around that and the kind of people that were doing that, those people are now living like in the heart of what is Anthony Albanese's electorate in Grayndler. They're living in Summerhill, they're living in Ashfield. That's the kind of connection. So I think in terms of how we grow and where people shift and change, that's also a factor. But we do know that we don't want to create this idea that the city is just uber wealthy and can only be wealthy. And one of the things that...
Are there any poor people here today?
I mean, you ask anyone in Sydney, like the rents are high, right? Course, but I think that there is another element to this, which is like, how do you, once you are incumbent, how do you then radicalise the community that you represent? And, you know, the good example that I would have of that is that I have certainly got a lot more radical in my politics and pushed the boundaries in terms of, yes, it's true. I like the way you say it.
No, I love it.
But I've got a lot more radical in my politics since I've been elected. I would say that, you know, that has brought the electorate of Newtown along with us, where we can now do a community newsletter, which most other, you know, state MPs would say, here's your local high school opening and here's your whatever. We just had a front page picture of the massive Free Palestine rally on it, and we only got 2 grumpy people come and throw it back to us. You know, like no one else even complained. And so I think that you can actually create a radical agenda, which is a different thing once you're incumbent, rather than how you're like the insurgent campaign trying to take on a lazy left Labor candidate who does nothing, like in the federal seat of Sydney.
Yes. And I think
actually, I should correct that. I should be fair. She has done something. She's opened 28 new coal and gas mines.
There you go. Hey, that took a lot of work. She had to fill out a lot of forms.
Very busy. Oh, and hugged a couple of koalas.
That's good.
Yes. But what you're articulating, right, is to not fall for, I think, the trap that Conservatives are setting for the Greens and for people on the left, that being radical is ineffective and you need to dial back. And the reason that the Greens aren't making as the advances that they would like to is because of their radical politics, which is bullshit. That's what they would like us to do, is to dial it back.
Yeah, and I think that there's a difference between doing radical politics when you're connected to the community and you're backing in a community stance, rather than sitting in the chamber. And I do love a good yell in the chamber, but, you know, it's like the kind of politicking which is angry in the chamber just to other MPs and other MPs fighting against each other is not what anyone needs in their life, you know? And so to me, it's like the level of anger that you can get when you're actually standing up for the fact that, you know, the state Labor government's demolishing public housing, or they're actually failing to have a drug summit that allows you to talk about legalising drugs, because apparently the scribes have been told not to write that on the board.
What?
Oh, yeah, there's a bit of censorship going on, so I hear, from the regional drug summits, where whole workshop, you know how you go to those horrific kind of like little workshops and someone gets the job of being the scribe and writing on the whiteboard. Apparently every time someone said like, oh, decriminalise drugs or, you know, legalise this or whatever, they would just happen to like not be able to catch up in time. You know how it's like, you know, you keep kind of saying your idea and it doesn't come up. And so apparently there are even break-off groups that occurred where people kind of said, I'm not interested in this group. We're going to have our own chat over here.
Amazing.
So that's kind of, you know, that's where it's at. That's the state of politics in New South Wales.
Yeah, please keep remaining angry about that. Very quickly, let's go through the details here a little bit about what's how we're looking for time. Oh yeah. So I mean, as part of this huge narrative about the, you know, Greens vote collapsing across the board, there was a helpful table in the conversation. Northern Territory election, we got 8% of the vote. That's an increase of 4%. We increased our representation by 1 seat. Yes, please.
Oh my gosh, and Kat is so good.
She's awesome, right?
Yeah, if you don't follow Kat, you should follow Kat. She is amazing.
The Queensland House election, the first preference vote is at 10%. It was pretty much stayed steady across the state. We lost 1 seat. We kept 1. The ACT House election, first preference vote was at 12%. We lost 1% of the vote and we lost 2 seats. That's probably as bad as it's got. In Tasmania, in the same year, which seems to be left out of the narrative, we got an increase of a vote of 2% and gained 3 seats for a total of 5 at the Tasmanian Parliament, if you don't mind. Queensland, New South Wales local elections, people are focusing on citing those examples too. In the local council elections in New South Wales, there's a 0.84% swing across the state, increased the number of council seats from 65 to 73, if you don't mind. People point to the Inner West Council as an example of the Greens thing not working out, okay? So my understanding is that the Labor held off the Greens challenge. There were expectations that the Greens might pick up some more seats, maybe even move into majority position on that council, and that didn't happen. Can you give us an idea of what exactly happened there?
Yeah, look, I think that you've got to take a bit of context here where we look at the fact that the Inner West Council covers what is the Prime Minister's seat.
Right.
So if there is any ability to be able to spin a narrative to the political analysis of what is happening, I would imagine that the Prime Minister has some access to being able to spin a narrative that makes sure that it looks like the Greens aren't doing well in his seat.
Right.
So I think that is the bigger picture context, right? There's another element there where the Greens had one councillor that was running again, and then we had the rest of the winnable spots were all new people.
Right.
So to get new councillors elected to the level we did, and shout out to Councillor Blake, who was also here from the Inner West Council. But to get that is a big step, right? And I won't deny it. It was disappointing that we didn't get the second Green. So we had an independent just in a part of the Newtown State electorate that had run. She didn't run again, and we were hoping that would be a Green spot. We didn't get there.
Yep.
But there's nothing based on the vote that was there that indicates that we did badly. There is an absolute desire for Labor want to have a narrative that works that way. But you have, the current mayor of the Inner West used to be the office manager for who is now the Prime Minister that has the seat of Grainler. Like the Transport Minister that tried to stop everyone paddling out on the harbour is the state MP. She used to work for Gillard. Like there is a Labor left machine in that Inner West area. And so it's not surprising that that's the narrative coming out.
Sure. Well, we're tight on time. We would like to talk about the seat of Sydney really quickly. Is that cool in the plan there?
Yeah.
Speaking of the Labor left, as we mentioned, the very hardworking Tanya Plibersek is the current member for Sydney. When we talk about the chances for a lower house seat for the Greens in New South Wales, we're talking Richmond with Mandy Nolan. That's going to fucking happen, hands down. And Sydney must also be in that list of seats, right? Now, you were the Greens candidate in 2004 and 2007. Just yesterday, we announced the Greens candidate for 2025 is Luke Velez. Give it up for Luke. Plibersek holds the seats with a 50% primary. In 2022, we got a 5% swing for a primary of 23%, and first-time Greens were two-party preferred there. Yeah, what's the dream? What's the strategy for Sydney? How are Greens going to win it?
Look, it really is about the idea of how we can connect and mobilise with people around the idea of people thinking that their incumbent MP is a nice person versus what they're doing to destroy the planet.
Right.
Yes.
Right? And it's a really tough ask. Like, I was 26 the first time I ran against Tanya Plibersek. She's been there a long time, Luke is now...
Don't look a day over 27, Jenny.
Oh, thanks, darling, thanks. Luke is now an amazing candidate that is going to take this up. Can't be here, sends his apologies because he was on a kayak at Rising Tide.
Yes.
We saw
Met
him
him yesterday.
But Luke is here.
Oh, he's fucking here.
Luke, come to the front. So cute. There you go.
There you go, that'll do. Right, well, he's committed to serious danger. Luke, an amazing activist for Pride in Protest as well, and fighting for justice for Valentine. Give it up for Luke Velez, everybody!
Oh my gosh, I love that. Welcome, Luke. So
Why aren't you on a fucking kayak? No. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Why didn't you get arrested? No. The thing to me is it's like, how do we create this idea that Labor left have lost their left credentials? How do we create a sense of chatting to people about what we expect for our community? And how do we break off this idea of, yes, sure, she may be a nice person, but aren't you also a little bit disappointed that as Environment Minister she opened 28 new coal and gas mines?
Yeah.
Or, it might be a nice person, but do you remember that actually she was in the Parliament when John Howard first voted to end marriage equality?
Yeah.
So I think this is the challenge. What do the tactics look like? My hope is that we can maintain a two-party preferred situation. The ideal scenario is that we put a big scare in. We know that this is going to be a tough slog, especially with the likes of Advance and others throwing lots of money. But Luke is very well connected to the community, on the board of Mardi Gras, connected with Pride in Protest, has been on kayaks this weekend, and I think has more experience in negotiating with the pains and tribulations of Labor left than I do. And that's saying a lot. So, I think that we've got a real chance. We also know from the ground game that we ran in the city of Sydney that there is a huge momentum in the city that often goes under the radar because, as you say, the centralisation of other states mean that they sort of set their priorities and talk them and sing them from the rooftops and everywhere. But we're very much like on the ground, doing our thing, got our strategy, got our people involved, and that's going to be a solid thing. We've got 2 councillors on the City of Sydney now, and the new federal boundaries for Sydney take in the Greens-held seat of Balmain, previously the insular peninsula of Balmain used to be in the seat of Grangler. With that boundary change, that has now come into Sydney, and that's held by Kobe Shetty. We managed to hold that over the first ever Greens lower house seat handed from Jamie Parker to Kobe Shetty. Yep. I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling really solid. And the question is, if we're looking at March, that's tight because we're just kicking off now. But if we've got a bit longer lead time, then I think I would be worried.
I know Tanya listens to the show and is a patron, so she'll be hearing and she will be fucking terrified.
I love it. So she'll be extra nice next time we are at the school assembly together.
Classic. Yes.
I love it. It's always
smiling for a photo together.
So nice together.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. Lovely to see you. Give it up for Jenny Leong, everybody. Come on. You're a legend, mate. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for being here, Luke. Now, we're going to bring our second guest up very shortly, but before that, we have a very special guest who's going to let you know about some stuff you can buy.
That's right. Please welcome to the stage Mike the Griff Griffin.
Yay!
We've asked him to be a model because what better model for the Serious Danger merchandise? As you can see, our model today, Mike the Griff Griffin, is wearing the Serious Danger tote bag.
Make it sexy.
That's right. Pressure Works. This is a design by Sam Warman, the incredible cartoonist. It's very cool. We've got a sweaty politician/businessman. We've also got the Serious Danger shirt, a classic shirt, as you can see. We have got this remaining in 3 extra small sizes. So we've got, 3 extra small shirts if anyone wants to come and get them if you're small like me. And the Greens political party bucket hat. GPP, but now you can join the party. It's a pun, everyone. And we have stickers. Okay, this is the tricky bit of the modelling. All right. This is like when they have to undo something on the runway. All right, we've got a bunch of stickers. We've got Serious Danger ones. We've got Greens Political Party. We've got Pressure Works, the Sam Warman design. And we've got 2 Clive Palmer stickers remaining now. So, we will be up the back after the show and you can come buy them. And I guess it makes sense that Mike's modelling them because if we didn't sell merch and have Patreon subscribers, we wouldn't be able to pay Mike and then the show wouldn't run because we didn't know how the fuck to make the tech work.
Do a little dance, motherfucker. Dance for your cash.
Dance.
I'm sorry, that was uncalled for.
No. Do you want to say anything, Mike?
No.
He feels dirty. Give it up for the Griff, everybody!
The Griff.
All right, let's crack along. Our next guest is a beloved satirist. He was on 7:30 for years. He's host of the 6:57 p.m. Bulletin on Channel 7, currently touring the country with the War on 2024 annual comedy gala. Please give it up for Mr. Mark Humphries.
Welcome.
Mark.
That's not a thing. Don't try and start it. Hi, mate. Thanks for being here.
Oh, wonderful to be here. You know, it's 32 degrees outside. I thought, can I wear shorts on stage? People want to see my legs. Clearly not a thought process.
Not a concern for this other lanky white man.
Well, you'll give the people what they want. You've performed here at the Vanguard before, I believe.
Well, that's a generous description of what happened. A friend had a birthday party here, and I was going to be a surprise guest, and so I was backstage. So this is why I'm sitting in the audience today, because when I was backstage, I couldn't hear a fucking thing. So when it was my cue to come on and do the surprise, I well and truly missed it.
Oh, no!
And so I'm standing there backstage. I realise that the moment has passed, and I then just go, well, what do I do now? Because if I come down those stairs, I then just walk out in front of everyone. Or I could go through the door outside and then just leave. And so I went out that door and I'm standing in the side alley, now missing my friend's birthday party. And I'm there with all the empty kegs and a stained mattress and thinking, I guess I just go home now.
Oh, my God. That's horrible.
And anyway, eventually I thought, no, I should just rise above it. So I came in through the back and, of course, everyone was just like, missed your cue, did you, mate? Fuck off.
Okay, so that makes sense. Yes, you did insist that you sat in the audience.
I was really specific about that.
That does make sense.
But it went smoothly. Congrats on the 6:57 Bulletin. Is that what it's called? The 6:57 Bulletin? Is that what we call it?
Sure, that's close enough. Yes, the 6:57 p.m. news. Do we have any commercial television fans in the house?
Oh, brutal stuff. It's very funny. People should definitely check it out or watch the clips online. Have any new stories about the Greens come up? Have you done a lot of satirising of the Greens in your time?
Oh, I mean, no, I probably haven't done a great
Tread
deal.
carefully.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like, because, there's only this sort of...
Fucking watch yourself, mate.
Okay. Well, have you ever noticed? A lot of federal Greens have double-barrel surnames. It's a bit weird, isn't it? But I think it is difficult to satirise people who are, I think, it would be fair to say, generally well-meaning.
Yeah, it makes you look like a real dick.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, they're what are you going to do? Like, they're well-meaning but occasionally disruptive, or well-meaning but maybe not as effective as they'd like to be.
Right.
It just feels like, respectfully, it feels like punching down.
Wow. I like to satirize
Come on,
people
that's
in
pretty
power,
good. But that seems to be when people lose their minds about the Greens. When people on Sky News, for example, want to shit on the Greens, it'll be like they do go after the fact that we're well-meaning. It's like, look at these fucking idiots who want the world to be a better place. What a bunch of losers.
Yeah. Talk about how they're annoying.
That's what we like. Now, I thought it'd be great to chat about something you're working on that'd be very, very relevant. We talk about renting all the time on the show. You're working on this documentary called The Renters. It's described as a satirical impact documentary, and that sounds awful. Tell us about it. What are you finding out about the rental crisis, and how's it all working?
Well, we're just waiting on our good friends at Screen Australia just to tick that final box. But I'm actually astonished to say that this is something that theoretically will be appearing on Binge. Bizarrely, Mr. Murdoch has put his own money into this documentary.
Hell yeah.
So that's something to look forward to. But yes, we'll be filming that in the new year, because I've been a renter my whole life. I'm renting at the moment, and obviously fully aware that it's a shit show.
Yes.
And so using that perhaps naive approach of satire, thinking this will change things. If we just, but the interesting thing, one person that we're trying to get for the documentary, which I'm stunned that we're doing, is Mark Latham. Because now, hang on.
Mark, what the hell are you doing?
Okay, I'm going to bring him around to Latham. Watch. So in the same way that a broken clock is right twice a day. So Mark Latham, bizarrely, when you look at the whole negative gearing capital gains tax, the one person in Parliament who was most vocal at the time about saying this is a terrible idea was Mark Latham.
That is true. Can vouch for that.
Yeah. So anyway, we think it might be amusing to bring, because he hates me as well. So I think it might be funny to have this interaction of a guy who hates me, but I'm also saying, but well done, by the way, on that one thing.
That would be good television. So what's the angle? And obviously, so you're exploring just how cooked it is to rent in Australia across the board, right? And all the little things that annoy you about being a renter.
And I think the reality is the title will probably change to expand also into home ownership and like I say, the general negative gearing, capital gains. So we'll be speaking to, there's a whole lot of boxes we got to tick. So to get the funding, but that's what it's all about. But so hopefully, I think the capital gains and the negative gearing is going to be a big part of it.
Right.
Probably not as much emphasis on a personal grievance of mine, which happened to make news last year, which was to do with, this is so niche, but I don't know if any of you are familiar with this thing with the NBN. About how for any new builds, I don't know, have you experienced this time? I think we might.
My brother and I bought our apartment off the plan. Yes, so we sort of went into this idea that there are only certain providers that the building can go with. So the idea
is this
of
an embedded networks thing?
Embedded networks kind of stuff is part of it, I think.
Well, this is
riveting.
If you've
comedy.
ever, no. You know what? I'll put it in the show notes. Shall I put it in the show notes? I'm happy to leave it.
No, I want to hear about it.
Tell us.
No, it's just that if you happen to rent a place that has not been connected to the NBN before, there is a $300 connection fee to connect that building to the NBN. And, shock horror, landlords don't like to pay that fee.
Yeah.
And so you as a renter often find yourself having an argument with the landlord about connecting their building to this service, which I should add, we've already paid $60 billion for. Why is there an extra $300? So it's a one-off connection fee that connects that person's building to the NBN forever. But then, of course, you're not going to live there forever. You might be there for a year. And heaven forbid, as what happened in my case, I happened to go to another place that had not been connected to the NBN. And I ask you, how many times can someone pay a one-time connection fee? So that's where the comedy is.
Thank you.
You screaming in Mark Latham's face. His fucking connection just, look, you won him over.
That's it.
we wanted to talk about some really huge news, again, for normal people, which is the Word of the Year. It's Word of the Year time, everybody. Yeah, that's right. Cheer, you little nerds. The ANU announced their Word of the Year this week, which, do you know what it was?
Yes, I'm ashamed to say that I do know. I don't think it's the first time any of us had ever heard the Word of the Year. Colesworth?
Colesworth. I've heard this because this is around the whole duopoly grocery prices thing and the idea that they're the same and they prop each other up and they help sustain the duopoly. So it's the ANU last year they had Matildas. They seem to do it's about the vibe. It's about the vibe of the year. And I've been looking into, every year when I'm reminded about these words of the years, I go and look at them all because I find it interesting. It says something about our society.
I used some jokes about some of them. I think previous ones include Bachelor's Handbag, which is the roast chicken you get from the supermarket, and also Halal Snack Pack, I believe, at some point. So I think Australia's just fucking hungry.
Well, and they all have, all the different dictionaries and groups have different kind of approaches. Like some of them will be an emerging kind of word, and I want to get to the Macquarie Dictionary does a little bit of that. But sometimes, like Merriam-Webster, for example, in 2023, they chose authentic, which is like fucking boring. What has that got to do with 2023? Sometimes, they also had like Nepo Baby, Riz was Oxford last year, Cozzy Lives was Macquarie Dictionary last year. I think that's quite good. What would your pick have been?
Well, I mean, this is more of a phrase, but I think we're all saying that we're all holding space for the lyrics to Defying Gravity.
Defying Gravity,
I think that we're all doing that.
A late nomination.
I think, but my personal word of the year, it's 2 words, is El Jana. I think El Jana's having a real moment. And who is? El Jana. There's one like next door, I think.
What? I don't know what that is.
You know what El Jana is?
What's El Jana?
She's royal commissioned for this. El Jana is a charcoal chicken emporium, and they're everywhere now. It's really a thing. People know who El Jana.
So.
Okay, and compare that to how many people have heard the word Colesworth. Yeah, right. El Jana is a better word. Yeah.
All right. Well, the ANU shortlist that was beat out by Colesworth included breaking, because Rachel, what's her name, the breakdancing, the Olympics.
Oh, right. I thought it was that annoying thing where non-journalists go on Twitter and write breaking.
Yes, every politician.
Yes, we've talked about MPs doing that with their own policy fucking announcements. Breaking! I did my job! Shut up. So breaking, so not ray gun, but breaking.
Breaking.
Because of ray gun.
Ray gun would have been, anyway. Climate trigger, Ute tax and Yimby.
Hello.
Yes.
The Greens are cutting through.
The Greens are cutting through. No, there's some more. And I was like, apparently it's just they get a bunch of nerds together. I was like, is there some sort of algorithm, some sort of way that they decide what ends up on this short list? No, they just get a bunch of nerds together and they decide what words they think represent the year the most.
Very much stop trying to make fetch happen vibes.
It is a bit that.
Well, because Macquarie, there's a public choice and a academics choice, right?
So, well, I don't know maybe there is, but Macquarie Dictionary is currently, their votes are open. It's going to be announced on Tuesday, their word of the year. And so they decide a shortlist together and then they put it to the public.
Okay.
They did this media release, which was very funny, full of all these buzzwords to explain their process and that voting was open. Quote, sure, we're still grappling with the relentless Cozzy Lives and watching generative AI continue its unstoppable rise from 2023. But 2024 has introduced its own distinctive vocabulary that completely mogs 2023.
I would like to die, please.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed that. What's mogs?
What is mogs?
Mogs, isn't it when you beat out, you totally dominate?
Don't look at me.
I think so. I think that's it.
Anyone want to clarify that? Mogs? Have you mogged something?
Am I right? Yeah, okay, thank you. You sound young. Thank you.
Fact check achieved.
All right, so I know where time is flying by, but let's go through the Macquarie nomination in case anyone wants to vote before it closes, before it's announced on Tuesday.
Okay,
now, just stop me when you have no idea what I'm saying or you have a take. So first they've got the Gen Z slang classics. Brain rot is a nominee.
That's something my dad said about me watching The Simpsons.
Oh, but it's different. It's now referring specifically to when you scroll too much and it's brain rot content that's just kind of
all right.
Really
I was thinking the next word to be
quality.
compact disc.
floppy disk. Skibbity, of course, is on the
Skibbity.
list.
Okay, now I only heard this for the first time yesterday. Something with a toilet?
No. Okay. And I was confused about this too. I was like, it's maybe bad because it's like toilet or it's yucky.
Sorry, Mark. It's like you're a man we've unfrozen from the 19th century. You're like Hugh Jackman in that movie. Okay? Tell me more of your ways.
It doesn't mean anything. It's a
Oh.
nonsense word. You can
okay.
and like it can be good. A lot of time it's used as like good, but it could also be bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be anything. That's really good. This is where language is heading.
Fatima Payman said Skibbity in her big
She said all
Gen
this.
Z
She said
address.
Mog. She said
she said them all.
Said a lot of
Okay.
these. Looks maxing is also on the list. Are you looks maxing at the moment? You seem to be looks maxing.
I don't, but you'll have to. Can you use it in a sentence?
I don't know. I'm sick of being ugly. I'm looks maxing right
Okay.
now.
Yeah, I've certainly said that. Yeah.
It's when you do everything you can to be the most attractive, and it's usually for men.
Oh, right.
So you would go to
Okay.
the gym, get your jawline. I don't know. All
Sure,
your things.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
I do go to Ray Martin's hairdresser, so I suppose that yes, I am.
Yeah.
I am
hell?
looks maxing. Yes,
Wow.
we share a
There you
hairdresser.
go. There you go. Okay.
You tracked him down, didn't you?
Oh yeah, because he's got the best.
He's the best.
Only the best. Only the best. The other, and I wonder if a Sigma, which is the next one on the list, would be looks maxing, or maybe a Sigma is too cool and doesn't even care about looks maxing.
A Sigma is attractive, excellent, and high regarded male, which is different to an alpha.
It's different to an alpha. They didn't say this in the definition, but my understanding is actually a Sigma. An alpha is like the leader of the pack, right? Whereas a Sigma is like, I don't even fucking care about the pack.
Yeah, a couple of Sigmas on stage tonight. Yes. All right.
Bloody
Okay,
oath.
moving on to the next nomination, raw dogging. Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll defend
Go
this
ahead.
one. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is because it's now expanded beyond
It has.
its traditional.
Yes. Traditional usage. That's right. That's right.
Also, I've read
Traditional.
the bunch of teenagers
The
that
raw
are teaching
dogging of your grandpa's raw dogging.
Yeah,
perhaps, yes.
that's right. That's
That's
right.
No, but the group of teenagers who are teaching me about the world of today. Yes, I think it's because now you can like raw dog a flight. I think
Yes,
it's just,
it is specifically about a
Oh, it's
flight.
just flight
but I
specifically.
think that's how it's nominated. My understanding is you can raw dog anything. No,
And to test that theory,
that's right. Live from Newtown.
Please welcome Mark Humphries. Mark, can you hear me? Get out of here.
Okay, we have then. Okay, some interestingly political ones. This is what you're saying. This is where the Greens kind of get some cut through. Right to disconnect is on the list.
oh yeah, okay.
Greens
Amazing.
win. We
Yes.
passed those laws.
Hell
Thank you
yeah.
for clapping.
Great.
Rent bidding, which
Okay.
you
Yeah,
might
sure.
be
We'll
familiar with.
get onto that.
Mark? Yes,
Yeah.
and enshittification.
Sorry,
enshittification.
Oh, okay. Again.
Yes.
Define it, please.
Enshittification, deterioration, especially as a result of profit seeking. So, like a place or a service getting shitter. They specifically mention social media platforms as well.
Right.
Getting enshittified.
Okay. So that's Elon's business model.
I
is
think it's meant to
enshittification.
be, yes, an
It's
allusion
pretty
to
amazing.
Elon.
It's like you look at something like Uber, for example. Now there are lots of problems with workers' rights and stuff with Uber, but yeah, the experience, the excitement we all had when Uber arrived is so much better than taxis and stuff.
Yeah.
These days, no one's giving you mints. No one's giving you mints or water or whatever, and it's just getting more expensive. They're the same, it costs the same much as a taxi basically, and so the enshittification of Uber is often cited as an example.
Right, yes, enshittification. Other ones I didn't know about, fairy porn. Who knows what fairy porn is? Oh, anyone who doesn't want to tell us. It's like fantasy fiction on relationships between humans and supernatural characters. Kind of what it
shit.
sounds like, I guess.
Okay, so
Yep.
if I was shipping fucking you and a unicorn,
Yes.
that would be fairy porn.
That would
mean,
be fairy porn.
Can we just give some credit to the one person in that group who went, fairy porn, right?
And everyone's like,
We're all, that's a word that we're using this year, isn't it?
Yeah. Really, really
you
popular.
know when you like fucking fair dogging some raw dogging some
dogging.
fairy porn and
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
Mog.
Yes, skibbity. This is actually, stop laughing because this is a serious
Oh,
one.
sorry.
Incidentaloma. Do you know what?
I don't know what an incidental is.
So incidentaloma is when you go to the doctor for something else and they find a tumour. It's like a tumour that you find as a result of another procedure. I think that's kind of interesting. Also, okay, all right, we'll get through the serious ones then, sorry. Cup Murray, which is an earth oven pit for cooking in the Torres Strait Islander style. Also haven't heard of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yep,
Yeah,
like an earth thing. And then Q Day, which I couldn't even understand after reading the definition. It's some computer nerd thing where there's enough quantum computers that your information gets leaked and all our data goes everywhere. I don't know. I kind of tuned
I
off
don't
Q
know.
Day.
This Sigma doesn't know anything about that.
So, yeah, 2 Sigma for that. Okay.
Too busy looking out for pussy, am I right, guys?
Yeah, that's right. Pig butchering.
Just making these up. At this
Not.
point.
These are on the list. Pig butchering.
What is pig butchering,
Well, it
Emma?
seems to just be another phrase for like love scamming. Like you pretend to love someone, you take their money.
Sounds like something you'd read about in fairy porn.
Yeah, that's right. Over
And the wizard did butcher the pig.
Yeah. Spoon bowl.
Spoon bowl?
Spoon bowl, where you have like a game to determine the loser. I don't know.
A loser of what?
The loser of like the team at the bottom of a ladder. So if there's a game that's going to determine who is at the bottom.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
all
a
right.
spoon bowl. And then, we're really clearly at the bottom of the list. Social battery, which of mine is running low currently.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
You know social battery.
Sure. Sorry, I thought I was something because we got so serious. I was thinking about the other horrible version
Oh,
of battery.
battery.
But yes,
No.
but that's,
My God.
that's social battery is what happens when you have full strength beer and you're out on the town. But yes. Okay. Social battery. Yes.
And the
Understood.
fact that, yes, you have a reserve that can just like diminish over time with your social interactions, which I
Right.
guess is not something that we understood before. I will finish with the way that the Macquarie article finished about its list of nominations for 2024 Word of the Year, which is, quote, "So, what are you waiting for? Get ready to get off your yachts and vote before Australia's Brat Summer is in full swing."
Yeah, Brad Summer.
Oh, dear.
Give it up for the English language, everybody!
Hey.
Well, fair enough. I think that's pretty much our show, right? We're going to go sell some merch and have some
Holy
fun.
shit,
Thank you so
it
much
really
for being
is.
here, Mark Humphries. We appreciate it very much.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for Tom's legs. Yes, please.
Whoa.
Oh, wonderful.
People can catch you. You're touring all over the country with the War on 2024 tour.
Yes, I'll be at the Enmore. There's a big sign that says Sunday, December 16. The correct date is Sunday, December 15.
Good.
Just look out for that.
Get there on a Sunday on whatever date.
If no one shows up, that will be why.
That's
Yes.
why. Exactly.
The only possible explanation. Please give a huge round of applause to Mr. Mark Humphries, everybody!
Thank you. Would you like me to get off?
Yeah, get the
Yeah,
fuck out of
go
here.
away, please.
We're done. You can go out the back if you
Go
want.
wait backstage. We'll call you back. Yeah.
Oh my God, that flew by, man.
That was really quickly. Thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thanks for
getting
coming,
tickets.
Sydney.
Yes.
We want to say a huge thank you to the Vanguard for having us. They've been amazing. Give it up for the amazing people at this amazing venue.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for looking after us. We're going to be selling merch afterwards, as we mentioned. But I think we should acknowledge the fact that I believe on Tuesday, which may or may not be my birthday,
Someone's birthday.
30 fucking 5.
Wow.
Very unfleek.
Skibbity for sure.
It is also going to be the 3 years. Basically, we will have been doing this show for 3 years.
Yeah. Does anyone remember the first episode? Did anyone listen to the first episode? Yes, because it was Tom's birthday. And we opened and we were like, this is a political podcast. And we were talking about the sex toys that your boyfriend gave you for your birthday. And then we were like, negative gearing, guys.
It's a big issue. What have you learned in our time together, Emerald Moon, on Serious Danger?
You're very tall and I'm very small.
Yes. That's it?
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I love doing this show so much, and doing live shows like this reminds us the fact that people listen, which maybe we forget sometimes. Yeah. It's pretty cool. People are prepared to come out and support it. But I think, going back to the conversation with Jenny about this narrative that's emerging that, things are rough or whatever. Fuck that shit. Man, the political project that we believe in as leftists, as members of the Greens, I think is still sorely needed. It's more needed, than ever before, and every single day we see that. And I just love broadcasting to other people who believe in that and who show up and who love talking about that and fighting for that.
Yes.
And I love working with you so very much.
I love working with you,
It really is an honor.
Yes.
And I've organised nothing.
That's really sweet. I didn't get you a birthday present either. So,
Oh, fuck.
no, I think it's true. And when you are just bombarded with fucking terrible takes from the internet and from the media and political class constantly, to be able to have conversations where even just me personally, when I talk it through every week on the podcast, then I'm like, okay, no, we're not absolutely crazy. We're not on the wrong track. We're not radical fucking terrorists.
Yes.
We are just trying to make the world a better place.
I mean, just speak of words that are overused, potentially, the term gaslighting maybe gets thrown around. But there is a political media culture that is designed to convince us that, yes, we're idiots, better things aren't possible.
Yeah.
The best we can hope for is full-strength beer in Western Sydney suburbs. It's like, no, we can believe in something better. And I really felt that yesterday walking around Rising Tide, right? Like that was a mass movement of people who were standing up for what they believed in, taking on forces that are so much more powerful than any of us, and winning, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And I just think, yes, if our little podcast can be a weekly reminder of that, then we're doing something right.
Yeah. Here's to us. Thank you for coming,
it is to you for making the show possible. That is it for us. Thank you again so much for coming out to Serious Danger. We will see you again, Sydney. We love you, New South Wales.
Bye.
Goodbye.
All right, let's go at the back.
Talk about the Greens. That bunch of
Serious danger to Australia.